become, they are not more than 60 million population. That is a key issue. So, but in the Bolivian case, and that is discussed, in the Bolivian case we have, and that is only for the Bolivian case, perhaps for Ecuador, three political orientation between the last 100 years. One is the state orientations, like the revolution of 52, who control the class orientation and the ethnical orientation. The second orientation is connected with the social class political orientation, principally the Marxist orientation. That this is the social class and the miners who connect the state and connect the ethnic process of mobilization. And the third one, and this is Evo Morales, that connect the state with classes. At the center is the indigenous movement. Now the discussion that we have in Bolivia, we have election the next week. The discussion that we have in Bolivia is if Evo lose the communitarian orientation in favor of a new bureaucratical state patrimonial power. That is the discussion that we have in Bolivia. Nevertheless, always the social mobilization and the legitimacy of Evo Morales and mass at national level is high, principally with the peasant and the indigenous level.
Thank you very much for your inspiring talk on Latin America. We all are somehow happen to be students of Latin American thinking. I am a student of economics, therefore I took the dependency theory for my theoretical framework for my research. But now I like to raise one question for you. We are now in the new modern world system, the capitalist world economy. So my point is, this new capitalist system can commoditize everything, including culture. If the present humanity is in this predicament, what will be the future?
Should I ask the next person?
Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir, for the very informative and well-studied presentation. My question is a little bit qualitative in nature. You spoke about the network. Network has become a place where new forms of conflict and power are expressed. And you also spoke about the new forms of discrimination in the network, the racism, sexism, and all. So it's all about new forms of problems. So my question is, why this conflict is new? Is there any basic changes in the very basic points of conflicts, or is there any difference in the strategies of discrimination or the ways of discrimination that are practiced? Is there any changes? Any change? If there is no change, how can we call it as new forms of discrimination or new problems? So even in our country, there are a lot of race, caste, gender-based problems. I think these problems have just shifted from the street to the virtual world. The discussions are going on in the network, but we can really observe the strategies of discrimination are changing, and sometimes the basic points of conflicts are also changing. If only we can address that kind of change, we can, I think, we can explain the transformation clearly. What is happening in your area? That's my question. Why this is new? That's my question.
It's very good. Yeah, okay. So you will answer this.
Really it's okay because the first and the second are connected. In our thesis, as you know in social science, we have several theses and researches and interpretations of the reality, and that is very good. In my appreciation, and that is the most important thing, I speak only of the cultural transformation, but this cultural transformation is directly happening in the last 20 years, is directly associated with capitalist transformation at global scale. You cannot understand the cultural transformation that is for you to if you don't understand the capital informalist global transformation that we have from the 80s to our days. And this capital transformation, capitalist transformation become from the industrial way of production to the industrial informational way of production. And in this formalization of the economy and the society has a global level, like principal actor, the financial capital. You cannot understand nothing at all of the world if you don't understand what happened in financial capital. I always say to my students, if you want to know what happened to the guy who is now crossing the street, you must understand what happened in China. Because if the price of the rice or the minerals increase or decrease in China, the impact in Argentina economy will be very high, because now Argentina has China like principal area of countries for potential. But similar thing with other things, with Germany and so on, with India. What happened with the investment that the India now negotiated with Bolivia with the financial capital? See, something is changed in India, probably affect Bolivia's situation. So all of things are connected, but the principal issue in the informational capitalism is the role, the principal role it plays the financial capital in structuring the world economy. The question is, in 2007, something is changing. What is changing? It's changing the relationship between the capital and the real economy, the financial capital and the real economy. When we have, and you have, like economists better than me, when we have the crisis of the immobiliarias, I don't know how you say in English, the real estate, thank you, real estate in the United States, in New York and the bank and so on, the impact in the real economy was very destroyed the rest of the economy and the rest of the industrial economy in the United States, impact in Europe, impact in the rest of the world, impact in India, impact in Latin America, and we have that we call a multidimensional crisis that changed everything. And at the end of this multidimensional crisis is a crisis of informational capitalism in the financial moment at global level. And we live now a moment of crisis, not only in economical terms, but we live this crisis in cultural terms, political terms, environmental terms, and so on. So this multi-global crisis affects everyday life in every part of the world. And is the most important thing in political terms is the crisis of democracy. Liberal democracy is in crisis everywhere. even in Uruguay. So that is a big, big, big problem. For me, the answer becomes from retake the idea of the new social movements and the idea of ethics to come place in politics in development. I know it is complicated because the power of the economy is another thing. But we find when we make the research, not only in Latin America, and when we make the research in Asia, in Europe, and in the United States, a new social movement is starting out. Of course, vis-a-vis this crisis, vis-a-vis this power of the multicultural economy and multi-economy society is very limited. I cannot say it's the future. I say it's the reaction against the crisis. It's only the reaction against the crisis. My dream, my personal political dream is if these social demands and orientation, ecological movements, working, revolution, inequality, and so on, become a new process of central information in this informational era. I don't know. But with taking account in this research only the empirical and of course the theoretical interpretation of the cultural changes. That is the idea. In the book we have a chapter of the economic transformations, of the political transformation, and so on. But in this exposition I only taking account, like my instructor told me to be the multicultural transformations. We can give another speak about the economic transformation. No? That is very, very important. For example, the criminal economy became very important, not only in Latin American level, a global level. $300 billion was cleaning this year in Europe for cocaine. So its capital takes the cocaine in its hands. In the case of Latin America, and that is the last point, if I understood well the question, in the case of Latin America, we have not only, but principally from 98, the Chavez government, to 2015, a domination of these progressive movements in the principal countries of Latin America. All these movements are in crisis, are finished, a new power of right come back to Latin America, a neoliberal, and this neoliberal is in crisis again. We don't know what happened in the next week in the Argentinian election. We don't know what happened with Bolsonaro or capacity to government with the fascist way of administrating politics, but it's very complicated. And Bolivia is isolated. Bolivia is isolated. We don't know what happened, but in any case, the trend was from past, from a progressive to come back a conservative government. Of course, there are particular cases like Colombia that always was conservative movement. But even Colombia now, the rest of the right orientations, conservative orientation, have enormous problems with social mobilization, social demands in almost every country.
Yes, Lawrence is my name. I'm from Nigeria.
You are from Nigeria?
Yes, sir. And the lecture is very interesting to me because I am in solidarity with Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So every discourse on Latin America also touches on Africa and Asia. So I want to understand the problems you enumerated in your lecture. I want to understand if the self-inflicted problems are more or the foreign inflicted problems on Latin America, which one is more? The indigenous problems and the foreign inflicted problems, which one is more? Again, I want to understand the contribution of Latin America in the current post-colonial discourse. How Latin America has been touched coming from colonialism and the post-colonial discourse. Thank you.
Professor Gutiérrez, you mentioned that charismatic leadership emerges from situations of crisis in society and religion, and you mentioned Pope Francis as a charismatic leader. We know that in Latin America there have been unholy alliances between the church hierarchy and dictatorial regimes. And Professor Michael Calderón and Professor KMCP also mentioned the incident of liberation theology movement, which was very popular in Kerala also. How would you connect these things in the person of the Pope Francis, for example? He is a typical Latin American in his informal, empathetic and outgoing marriage. So I would like you to connect some of these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the talk. This question is mostly connected with the kind of performativity, the kind of performance that political cultures are. And it comes also from the way football is sometimes played. For a lay observer, when you see a strange way in which a kick is made, a scorpion kick happening on the ground, to what is happening in the educational milieu, for instance. Like in 2014, there was this popular news of a self-styled man called Papa Fritos. He's called Fried Potatoes. What he did was he burned all the student loan documents in the university, and the ashes were spread across the university as a protest against student loans and student indebtedness. On the other hand, in another part, you see a constitution in Ecuador being structured in terms of Buenos Vivir, or good life, or something like that, which incorporate nature into community living, into a constitutional order. This performativity is there in different realms. For a lay observer, when you see that kind of performativity, especially in the context that we are living in this country, where the constitution, the educational structure, everything is facing a different order, I get curious, and I would like to know what is your comment on how far is multiculturalism an element in the kind of performativity that Latin America has become for us. Thank you.
I think you can answer this.
Thank you very much. You listen to me, yes, no?
Okay.
Are we beginning with your question? In part of my answer, we need a historical approach, because the Catholic Church, but not only the Catholic Church, the different religions in Latin America play an excellent role of protection community and protection politics.